If education is a journey in particular into truth, then it's not a book list or some sort of finite body of facts to be memorized, which means that we don't have to be comprehensive in our
Right.
treatment of the different curriculum that we're using in order to give our children an education. That's not what it's about. Rather, our task is to equip the students for a lifetime journey, if I can use C.S. Lewis's words, further up and further in.
One of the things that you said that really just jumped out to me was you said education is a journey, not a list.
Yes.
And I was like, that's amazing because every homeschool mom, I've been doing this 12 years now, and I still feel like I have to check all the boxes. I
Yes.
don't know why I feel that way. I guess it's how we've been conditioned.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to still get my brain around it's a journey. It's a journey. It's a journey.
It's a
It's not a list.
journey.
It's not a checklist. Um, my kids aren't medical records. Like they don't need to check all the boxes in order to be successful.
Yes, if education is a journey in particular into truth, then it's not a book list or some sort of finite body of facts to be memorized, which means that we don't have to be comprehensive in our
Right.
treatment of the different curriculum that we're using in order to give our children an education. That's not what it's about. Rather, our task is to equip the students for a lifetime journey, if I can use C.S. Lewis's words, further up and further in, right?
Mm,
Dorothy Sayers calls this Act One of recovering the lost tools of learning.
mm.
That is to say that rather than being comprehensive in our treatment of the facts, we are trying to equip our students to learn for a lifetime, giving them the
Yeah.
tools necessary to read well and think well for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
You can read her ideas about this. She wrote a wonderful essay called The Lost Tools of Learning, and you
Mhm.
can find it free online. But the various disciplines, from her perspective, represent opportunities not to teach the child the facts, but to teach the child how to think. She describes this as a three-stage process, which is actually the only list I'm going to give you myself.
Yeah.
I'll quote my professor. I mentioned him in
Okay.
an earlier podcast. You got a pencil?
I do. I have a pencil. Oh, I just threw my pencil.
In the first of these stages, the child is acquiring a basic knowledge of the stuff of the world, and he's soaking in facts and isn't that concerned yet about how they fit together. In the second stage, he tries to arrange and connect these facts in a logical way, that is, to argue to an order of the facts for himself. And in the third stage, the child learns to put the order he's found into words so that he can communicate his thoughts about these facts to others clearly and beautifully. But in every single stage, the emphasis is not on mastering all of the facts. The facts themselves are just tools by which the child becomes equipped for further thought and study. This is good news for you, mom, because it makes the information age your friend.
Yes.
Information is at your fingertips and your child's as well. And so it's not necessary that you cram every single thing into your child's mind. That doesn't mean that memorization isn't important. The exercise of memorizing data or poetry or what you have is a tool as well by which we train our minds and exercise our minds to gather and retain and contemplate important things. But it's just a tool, and it's a tool to an end rather than an end in itself. They don't have to retain every single fact. Do you? I
No.
don't. So, if that's true, that education is less about mastery and more about acquiring these tools of learning in the pursuit of wisdom and truth, then maybe my professor friend was right. And maybe it is possible to get a top drawer education reading just the Bible and a couple of good books.
Yeah.
Maybe it has more to do with how you read such books and what happens when you do than it does with how many books you've read.
Mm.
Um, I hope what you're asking right now is, this sounds too good to be true. Is it? And probably the reason there's a catch here is because there is one.
Mhm.
Um, the idea here is that you can't talk about things that you don't know, that you have to go along with your child on this journey towards education. Mitchell would say it this way: one who would guide the sleeping intellect of a child into alertness, awakeness, and awareness of the truth has to be actively pursuing it himself. which is just another way of saying that if we're going to act as a guide, we have to blaze a trail,
Yeah.
which means you have to read the books. You have
Right.
to read the books yourself. Now, this task is demanding, but it's not impossible when we remind ourselves that it's not about quantity, it's about quality. We have to read the book in order to lead our child into a thoughtful discussion of the book, but we don't have to read every book and discuss every single one in the same way. So take some subset and make that subset the number of books that you actually think you might have time to read and to think about deeply.
Mm.
And make that subset the number of books that you're going to discuss with your child. With that in mind, watch Teaching the Classics Basics seminar. And in it, we use children's picture storybooks in order to present story structure and to teach you the stylistic devices that authors use in order to communicate their story's thematic ideas. And the thematic ideas are really the heart of the art of storytelling. They're the big ideas that the author wrote to think about, the big questions he wants to discuss with his readers. And it's solid gold for the homeschool parent because these themes are where the art of story engages with universal truths. That is the meaning of life, what a man is and what good a man is, what a love is and what good a love is, and all of the big questions. Those are the kinds of things that you go to moralizing about 6 ways to Sunday. But with literature, there's no need for moralizing or sermonizing. We get the expression of these questions and some of the answers to these questions in living color that engages our students in thinking about these things right alongside the authors and the characters in the story. When we come alongside and we learn to ask the kinds of questions necessary to understand thematic ideas and stories and teach our kids the kind of questions necessary to engage with authors to understand those big ideas, we foster the kind of conversation that is at the heart of the reason that we homeschool as
Yeah.
parents. Because those big questions have really big answers. And if we answer those things wrong, lots of trouble ensues in the human life. It's the proverb says, as a man thinks, so is he. And so how we think about these big questions is going to dictate how we live our lives. The classics offer kids an opportunity to engage with the kinds of answers other people have given to these big questions, and to see that they're not the only ones asking those questions. Uh, we get to see not only the questions themselves in living color, but the consequences associated with answering those questions in particular ways that aren't limited and constrained to art or to literature. As kids grow and the kinds of stories that they're reading come from a variety of different worldviews, we're able to give our kids a comparative worldview education just through the literature that they're reading if we understand what the questions are that are being asked and the kind of worldviews that give rise to the answers that they're seeing on the pages of these books. After they've read those things, they can step back into their own skin and from the security of their living room with their parents, talk about whether or not those answers resonate with the truths that they found in the Word of God.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a more satisfying opportunity, a riper opportunity for the homeschool family. Because we can equip our kids to have these kinds of conversations with children's picture books, this is available to everyone, regardless of the kind of education that you yourself may have received. I've never met anyone who is threatened and intimidated by a children's picture storybook. And because all stories share the same structure and employ the same kind of stylistic devices in order to talk about the universal things of man, a children's picture storybook is a better place to learn, I would argue, about how to ask the questions, what kind of questions to ask, and how to discover the thematic ideas at the heart of story than, say, War and Peace would be. It's short. short. It's a one-sitting read, and
Yeah.
everybody enjoys it, which means that when you're schooling multiple children, it's a wonderful opportunity. Read the children's picture book aloud, look for the structure and story, have a conversation about thematic ideas, and notice the artistic ways that the authors stress those ideas through their use of literary devices. And you foster a habit of mind in your student that they will take into reading grade level reading material for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
This is the magic of teaching the classics. So that's an A, B, a two-shot deal. First, yes, of course, you can give your kids a wonderful education, and you can do it with just a few books, as long as you teach them to ask the right questions
Mhm.
of those books. If you understand education is not mastery, but instead it's acquiring and giving to your kids the tools to learn for a lifetime, then it's not the comprehensive nature of mastery education falls by the wayside. And
Yeah.
instead, we see the various disciplines as just tools, opportunities to help our kids acquire the proper tools to read intelligibly for the rest of their lives, to learn.
Homeschool Insights is sponsored by CTC Math. If you're looking for a great online math program, visit ctcmath.com and try it for free. For more great homeschool inspiration and resources, listen to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.